Hi, my name is David Hills and I'm Senior Director at ARC Workplace Risk. We're working to develop a series of short informative videos on the key elements of the new Building Safety Regime, the Building Safety Act 2022 and the associated legislation. Now in this video I'll be focusing on the requirements, specifically looking at resident engagement strategies. Now as part of their statutory duties and obligations, principal accountable persons are required to prepare and keep under review a document called a Residents' Engagement Strategy. Now the objective of this strategy document is to support the principles of transparency of information and partnership with residents and promote participation of the residents themselves. Now this requirement applies to all high-rise residential buildings with 2 or more occupied residential flats. Now, no matter how long the residents live in the building, be it student accommodation, be it short lets and the like, the need for a resident engagement strategy is exactly the same as for a building with long lets and traditional market sold properties. So, can't I just develop one strategy no matter how many buildings I have? Well, unfortunately not. The Building Safety Regulator has been very clear that a one-size-fits-all approach cannot be and must not be adopted when creating the residents' engagement strategy. The strategy has to be tailored to each specific building and its residents. Okay, so what does a resident engagement strategy actually include? Well, the strategy document itself should set out very clearly a number of key elements. First things first, the information that the principal accountable person will provide to the residents and the property owners regarding building safety related decisions and the management of the building. It should also include arrangements in place that will allow consultation with the residents to be undertaken and how their views will be considered. It sets out the core information that will be provided to residents, as well as the other types of information that can be made by residents on request. It details, for example, how the principal accountable person will measure and review the effectiveness on the strategy. And importantly, it includes details on how residents can report safety concerns and occurrences, and what are or is the processes for providing feedback and delivering action. Now finally, the strategy has to include information for residents about the complaints procedures, so they themselves can raise concerns about the safety of their own home and the building in which they live. I think it's very important though that we have to understand that that's just not the only element of a strategy. The strategy has also got to seek to determine the demographics within the actual building. What type of residents live within your building? What are their age? What type of language? Do they have any vulnerabilities, etc.? We've also got to identify the residents' preferred methodologies of communication and engagement, be that face-to-face or via email or the use of social media. And finally, the strategy also must ensure that residents are aware of their own obligations under the Act and that they have a significant role to play in respect of safety where they live. So, when developing your resident engagement strategy, it's important to consider the potential barriers to engagement that residents may face and ensure that the selected methods of engagement actually reflect the residents' engagement preferences that they have told you, be it the learning styles, access to technology. All of those barriers have to be overcome. Information should also be provided in a format that allows the resident to clearly understand what they've been given without specialist knowledge. Okay, whilst it's important to develop and implement your resident engagement strategy, it's also very important to keep your strategy up to date and under review. There is actually a statutory requirement to review your strategy. So you will have to be able to show to the regulator and others that their strategy is working for residents and actually promotes and encourages participation. The regulator and the law currently states that as a minimum, your strategy should be reviewed every 2 years. But that is not the only time it will need to be reviewed. Other times where, for example, you've got changes to the building or following a mandatory occurrence or a safety occurrence, that will also start the review process. Right, now talking of safety occurrences, residents must also have the ability and understand how to report incidents and safety observations to the principal accountable person or other accountable persons. And if these transpire to be reportable safety occurrences, then they will have to be reported directly to the regulator. Residents should be provided with regular updates on their observations and reports, as well as details of what actions have been taken, as well as the time frames for which those actions are actually undertaken. Now, I mentioned earlier the need to include details of your complaints procedure. Now, the principal accountable person must now establish and operate a system for residents to submit complaints and ensure these complaints are investigated and actioned. Residents are expected to have their access to a very clear and transparent process so they can voice their concerns and receive regular updates from you, the principal accountable person, on any investigation and the forthcoming actions. So, when have I got to have this done by? Well, guidance issued by the government suggests that you should now be developing and implementing your strategy. You should not be waiting. But let's be very clear. According to the regulator, every building will require a bespoke residents' engagement strategy to be in place alongside the safety case report when they start to direct principal accountable persons to apply for their building assessment certificate. Now, currently, the issue is being considered by the regulator and will start to call those documents in from April 2024. But remember, the regulator will only give you 28 days to provide your safety case report and your residents' engagement strategy. Okay, so our tip is very simple. To ensure that you have your building safety management system is there, it's gathering the information, it's recording and sharing that information with your residents in accordance with your strategy. Now, some management systems, such as Cuda, allow you to set automated workflows to ensure that core safety information can be shared and that you can record this for evidence purposes. It can also help you monitor and review your strategy with performance indicators, as well as provide a system required to monitor mandatory occurrence reports, complaints, and any investigations relating to that. So, thank you very much for listening. If you'd like more information or would like to see how ARC's specialist building safety team can assist you in the preparation of your resident engagement strategy for your building or your buildings, then please contact us using the details provided. Thank you very much.